Hot and
We're starting. Hi, friends. We are here on Dishing on Divorce on WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio, Podcast, and TV. I'm your host, Lisa Lisser, CEO and founder of LZL Coaching, a boutique coaching firm focused on divorce, relationships, and life transitions. I'm also a divorced mom of 3 now grown kids, a recovering lawyer, a current educator, spiritual counselor, and divorce coach who's committed to transforming the divorce experience for everyone involved. Today's guest is Linda Robayo. Linda is an attorney, mediator, and also a divorce coach who changes lives every day with her powerful work advocating for divorce with less remorse. Yes, that's the name of her website, and I just love it. Welcome to the show, Linda.
thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. Linda, I'm going to read a little bit of your bio and
Sure.
then we'll get to it, okay?
Sounds great.
Linda Robayo has handled many divorces, domestic violence cases, parenting plans, financial divisions, and custody arrangements during her legal career. She doesn't believe that to attorney, win, lose, right, wrong, dig yourself into debt approach is the only way to part ways and co-parent. People who want a divorce or who have a divorce dumped in their lap can choose to spend less money, divorce faster, and reduce the fallout on their kids and careers. Linda, in addition to practicing family law, is a divorce mediator, both in the private sector and authorized as a New Jersey Rule 140 mediator for the economic aspects of family law cases, with or without domestic violence. And this means when divorces or other family law financial matters don't settle in court and a trial is a real possibility, a judge can order spouses to mediation so that a trial doesn't have to happen. Linda is on the New Jersey Family Court's list of approved mediators in every county in New Jersey. Private mediation gives spouses control over the terms of their divorce, how long it takes, and how much it costs. Instead of 2 retainer hefty attorneys vying to prove who is right, mediation helps both spouses, it sounds noisy out there, both spouses develop as many options as possible for each topic tackled. This way, neither is stuck between only 2 solutions. With mediation, spouses can begin their new lives separately while learning to co-parent together. Is it guaranteed? Nope. But with honesty and respect, it's an attainable goal. So, Linda, thanks for joining us. And tell us, what's your story? What brought you to this work?
Initially, I started out as a nonprofit attorney with New Jersey Legal Services, and I honestly wanted to give back to the community. My family's from South America, and I don't think my grandparents finished third grade. And I know that, they didn't understand the language, probably ridiculed at some point. And then my mother came here, and she didn't know the language. And I wanted to work with the Hispanic population and just represent them, just um, take away the timidity and the confusion around the US court system. So I did that for quite some time.
So, so what you're saying is you felt that you wanted to give back, but specifically to the Hispanic population, because because it's scary to be in a place where you don't speak the language and
Correct. Hmm.
you don't really understand what's going on. And, you know, it's true concretely when you literally don't speak the language. But when you're going through a divorce and it's something you've never done before, and you're surrounded by legalese, which is a language you really have never spoken before, and you're in a world where everyone else seems to be an expert, but you're not, it's like you're navigating a space where you don't know the language. And you've you've jumped into that field as well.
Yes. One thing I really appreciated about my divorce coach training that really helps in mediation and with my regular divorce clients is leaving your emotions behind when you're in front of a judge, when you are at an early settlement panel, as we call them in New Jersey, meeting with 2 or 3 experts who are going to advise you on how your case should settle. Uh, Really, I work with actually, I tell my clients, we're about to enter a business meeting. I tell them this weeks in advance. We're going to a business meeting. And no matter how hurt you are or angry, you need to leave that at the door
Yeah.
because not participating or rolling eyes or getting angry or crying, unfortunately, we as women lose credibility. And the goal is to have each person, literally, sometimes you're sitting at a table negotiating, or you're on Zoom, or you're in front of the judge, to have a composed person who's already thought about what their goals are, what's financially feasible, what will work with their value system, and how to ask for it with composure, or how to at least, if I'm asking for it, I tell my clients no facial expressions, no eye rolling. This is a business meeting. And I want them to be emotionally at just a bit of a plateau while we're going through this. And then when we leave, you can cry, you can be frustrated, sit in your car and bang the steering wheel. But these are business meetings. That's how I see them, and that's how I tell my clients.
It's really important. One of the things I tell my clients, especially when I first meet them, is that I help you separate the business of divorce from
Mm-hmm.
the emotions of divorce. I help you put the emotions of divorce over here so that you can focus on the business of divorce. And it sounds like that's exactly what you do in the negotiation space, in the mediation space, in the litigation space, because that's really essential to helping your client get what they need out of their process, whatever process that might be.
As much as it pains me to say, it is to some extent true that women may suffer more economically in a divorce. And it pains me to say that we're just not on par with a lot of our male counterparts. Some of the saddest cases I see, no matter what socioeconomic strata the client the client lives in, populates, um, if they don't earn as much as their spouse, if they can't fully support themselves, they're in for a trail of tears, in my opinion, especially when it comes to the family home that they've lived in, if they have younger children. It's a harsh, harsh world. And basically, if a mortgage company cannot evaluate that person, usually the wife, as a standalone customer where they themselves qualify for a mortgage, they don't get the mortgage on their own. They won't have the money to buy out. They can't refinance. They can't buy out their spouse. When you cannot, male or female, buy out your spouse regarding the marital home in a divorce, it has to be sold.
Yeah.
And it's really, really sad. And it breaks my heart to tell someone this is your new reality. Like, this will happen. The house is going to be sold because you have not qualified for a mortgage. And
So
that's really hard.
it's hard news. And it also is part of the journey. So there are things that are associated with the house that are hard to let go of. So part of the coaching work we do is what is it about the house that you're holding on to? And maybe letting go of some of those things is actually necessary to move forward. And at the same time, part of what I've learned in my divorce coaching journey is that there are specialists in the divorce professional world called divorce real estate specialists
Yes.
who
Hmm.
help you in that area to get unique mortgages where you may get approval in a context that's unlike other mortgages, so that working through,
Hmm.
you can find, like, you may be in a no-win situation with a regular bank, but if you find the right professional to support you in getting that unique product that's specially designed for the divorced person, then maybe it's because you built the right team at the beginning who can help you find those services.
I agree with you. The certified divorce lending professionals, I work with them. I'm highly grateful for them, as with other team members, divorce coaches in particular, because if I'm dealing with my regular divorce clients and not a couple with whom I'm mediating or someone whom I'm coaching, they want to talk to me about all of this. And I don't mind, but it's costing them a portion of my hourly rate for however long we're emailing, texting, or on the phone, on Zoom. And I can't provide a lawyer is not a lending specialist. A lawyer is not a therapist. And as much as I feel for the individual, I simply, as an attorney, don't have the time or the expertise. So to be kind, I say, I'm very sorry you're in this situation. Can I refer you to X, Y, and Z? And that's even hard if they don't have a divorce coach, because then they say, oh my God, I'm going to spend more money. But you're spending it with me who can't even really tangibly help you,
Right.
other than make a referral. And so I think for every person out there, not just women, get a divorce coach. Um, this will save the person money. It will save you money if you hire a divorce coach, so that when you meet with your attorney, you're ready to ask the right questions and not. I mean, I'm giving examples. I have people email me texts of what the other person said, and the person is angry and they sound harsh. Is it domestic violence level harassment? Hard to say. Sometimes it's just a toxic relationship, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
Unless it gets egregious enough, and then I may email it to opposing counsel and say, can you just have a chat with your client? Um,
Yeah.
so
But those are the kinds of things that I encourage my clients to communicate to me before they communicate to their lawyer.
yes,
Because I often say, what do you expect your lawyer to do about it? Because if there is nothing for their lawyer to do about it, then it's costing them so much money just to communicate with their lawyer. Sometimes they say they just think their lawyer needs to know. They just need to
that's a big one. I need you to know.
Yeah, right? Like, I'm not wrong about that.
No, you're 100% right.
And I share with them, well, let me know. And when we have something that the lawyer needs to know,
Mm-hmm.
we will communicate it to the lawyer. And so this way I can also reframe it for the client so that the client then has the tools to respond or not respond,
Mm-hmm.
and to take the mindset shift so that they can behave differently if they need to, or they can experience what they're receiving differently and receive it differently.
A big question I get asked is, how do I respond? To the other individual's inflammatory language, triggers, as we call them, to
Yeah.
trigger the client's response. I say, don't say anything. You don't have to respond.
Yeah.
This person didn't ask you anything. They were just barking at you.
Yeah.
You don't have to respond. If in there somewhere is buried, I'll pick up, Susie and Johnny at 6. Thanks for letting me know you'll be picking up Susie and Johnny at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
That's it. I tell a lot of them that. Don't answer. Where in that information is a question?
Yeah.
Nowhere.
I just wrote a blog post on how the 5 top tips of communicating with a narcissist. And essentially, one of the things I said is sometimes you just need to know when to walk away.
Yeah, or else you're embroiled in this back and forth that could last a couple hours. And
Yeah.
then they turn to me and say, look, he said this, he said that, I think you should know. And I will be kind, but inside I'm just thinking, I can't, I don't have time for this because I'm working on your legal stuff.
Yeah.
Like I just can't, I can't be a therapist. I can't do this. Um,
And it's
but
really hard. It's really hard for the client. And I
mhm,
have compassion for the client who needs to share. And the role that I serve is I am that backstop. I am the shoulder to lean on so that they don't have to share in such an expensive way. And when they share with me, I say, okay, so tell me what's going on for you when you hear this comment. And then we can work on how would you like to respond? Or how do you usually respond?
Right. And what does that do for you as
Right.
you know,
And
that response?
what do you wish was different?
Mm-hmm.
How would you like it to go? So let's role play that a little bit. Let's see how that might go. And then we walk through it in a way that changes things up for the client. And then they see that it doesn't have to go the way it always goes. And all of a sudden, there's like this aha moment. And then they actually believe that they don't have to respond, right? Like
Yes.
we can tell them they don't have to respond, but they don't always believe it when we tell them. So they need to experience it. And that's what we do with the role playing.
It's a tremendous asset to have a divorce coach on board. And also not just within the legal arena with divorces, but clients who are involved in either private mediation or court-ordered mediation. Private mediation just means they're doing it on their own, either before they file for divorce or after they file for divorce, to come to a settlement that they might reach with a lot of money spent and anger in about a year and a half. It's working toward that now,
Right.
in private mediation, and it can really save thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars. And I usually ask clients who call me for a divorce, do you get along with your spouse? Are you okay? If you don't have to be best friends, but can you speak about scheduling and activities in a civil manner? I go, well, why not try mediation and save a whole lot of time and money?
Yeah.
So I'm not the kind of attorney who says, well, I'm just going to make as much money as I can. I want to meet you and be done with your divorce. I do not want to live with you for 2 years and have you spend $50,000
Right.
at all. Nobody's happy in that scenario. I'm not, and I'm sure they're not. And court ordered mediation, that's kind of a bandage at the end.
Yeah.
That's after they've gone through filing, numerous conferences to set deadlines. Nobody's settling. They've been through an early settlement panel where 2 or 3 attorneys suggest how they may settle this based on their experience. That's not mandatory to accept those terms. And then at this point, you're 8 months in, the judge is not happy. You go back and they say, we're sending you to mediation, and that's court ordered. And it's not fun because by then you've piled up the anger, spent a ton of money. You're like, what is this person going to do for me?
Yeah. Yeah.
What am I going to get here? So when I'm in that situation, I say, the only way you will not be divorced is if you drop the divorce to the plaintiff. I go, so we're here. We need to answer these questions and settle this matter.
Yeah.
It's tough. I met with a woman who was older than the plaintiff, the husband plaintiff, really didn't work outside the home much, and he left her for someone else. So here she is, older, broke. She could not get a mortgage to refinance the house. A lot of her family, it was one of those like 2, 3 level homes, family homes. And it was devastating for her. And I had to look her in the eyes and say, this is happening.
Yeah.
The only way, and I looked at him, is if you drop the divorce. The only way, after laying out the process and how much it would cost them, to not settle during mediation would cost them each approximately an additional $15,000.
Yeah.
And they had probably already spent that and more.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
So I'm sorry I'm just so passionate about save time and money. And
Yeah.
then if they had a divorce coach, because that woman was bubbling with emotion. And she just, even after this time since he filed for divorce, how did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me?
Yeah.
Why kick me when I'm down? Now I have to sell my house.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really hard. So now we need to take a quick break, just a few 30 seconds, no talking, but we're going to have a little word from our sponsor, and then we will be right back. Okay. And we're back with Linda Robayo. Linda, you were talking about how emotional it gets and your passion for helping people save time and money. Divorce is so emotional, and yet the process is so clinical, right?
Yes, yes. Thank
Right?
you for putting it that way. I actually needed a word for that. And I never thought of clinical because I feel badly about my regular divorce clients. Like I meet you, hey, you hire me, and then you're with my paralegal because it's less expensive.
Yeah.
And then you meet with me when we're closer to a court date. And sometimes they feel like, hey, where'd you go? You're my lawyer.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm trying to save you money. And then
No,
they feel like it's
right.
very
But I
methodical.
hired you and like I really liked you, but I don't even know you're paralegal. And so there's
Hmm.
all of that. And that's where again I come in to be the personal face, right? Like I am the one who's holding their hand. I sometimes call myself the guide on the side because I want to be the one to walk them down the path. And you feel like you're alone when you're walking through divorce, right? Even though you hire the lawyer, you can't call them all the time. You know you shouldn't. Sometimes you can't help it, but you want someone that you can call. So with my clients, I don't invite them to call me all the time, but I do invite them to text me or send me questions on an email. And I don't promise I'll email them back right away or text them right away, but I will say it on air. I don't charge them for the time that I review their text or call.
Hmm.
They pay me for the time in session, and I'm there for them when they need me. So that's how I work. It's not an hourly rate. We're in relationship.
Okay.
And that's a different kind of service. And so that's how we work together. And so they know that their face matters and their experience matters. And yes, that matters to their lawyer, but their lawyers have too many clients and too many issues, and they are there to do the legal divorce. Like I also share,
Yeah.
there are
Sure.
actually 4 divorces, right? There's
Hmm.
the divorce, the financial divorce, the emotional divorce, and the social divorce. The
And they're
lawyer,
dealing with it at the same time.
yes, but the lawyers are responsible for the legal divorce and some of the financial divorce. But the clients are really concerned about the emotional divorce and the social divorce because they don't really recognize when it first starts that not only is their marriage falling apart, but their social network may be also falling apart. So once that happens, then again, their whole world feels like it's tumbling down, and their lawyer can't be concerned with that. They need to focus on the law. So they bring those emotional issues into the coaching space. And I help them reframe what their life could look like going forward. So they really can have a purpose and values shift. So all of a sudden they redesign their life, and they didn't want to, but maybe now that they have no choice,
Hmm.
look at it like they get to, not they have to, but they get to. I help them reframe it so it's an opportunity, even though it might not be their choice.
I had a gentleman email me on Monday saying that what's going on with my divorce? I feel like I'm blind walking down an alley. Um, he called me, and if someone doesn't leave me a message, I'm not going to call back. I'm not because I don't have the time to sit there for 30 minutes and accomplish nothing.
Right.
And that's harsh, but I don't. But I did email him. I saw you called. What can I help you with? And that's what he said. What's going on with my divorce? I feel like I'm blind walking down an alley. And I just told him that he is at a point in the divorce where we're waiting for a conference management to be scheduled. We're waiting on that, and that could be next month or it can be in 3 months. And I said I don't communicate with you a lot because I don't want you to spend more money than you have to.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear from him again, so I guess that was good. The waiting also bothers people because I'm not communicating with people. How you doing while you're waiting? You know,
Yeah.
I let them know we've done this. Now we're waiting for a case management conference date. And in between that, I'm not communicating with them unless I get something from the opposing counsel or from the court. And my paralegal isn't also unless she needs documentation. She's not reaching out independently because you get billed for it. I had a client yesterday say, "Oh, can I drop off these documents? 400 pages." I said, "You'll be billed for the scanning. Time it takes the administrative assistant to scan it." I go, "Here's what you do. Here's what I want to see. I suggest you do the scanning, or else you'll be faced with a horrific bill."
Yeah.
And so I'm very conscious of that with them, more so than I am the emotional state because I can't provide tangible results for the emotional state. And that's really hard to bear for me.
Yeah. And
So,
the
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
no, you're my guest. Want to
How do
say,
we get people to realize that divorce coaching isn't just for the wealthy or people with six-figure incomes? How do we get people to see that overall, if I'm spending 7 months in this divorce process, I could save $5,000 in the long run or $3,000 in the long run if I have a divorce coach? Um,
it's a good question, and what my philosophy is that when people walk in the room meeting their lawyer for the first time, I like to collaborate with lawyers, and I want lawyers to be able to say to their clients, I'm your advocate, and I also recommend you work with a divorce coach because together we will be able to more effectively help you through this process. So from my perspective, that is a win-win for the client.
it
So,
really is, but they're so afraid of having a bill, but and I advocate and say, no, you're going to save money. This person's
right.
going to help you.
And
Uh,
the thing is that what we know as money spent upfront
mhm.
will save money on the back end and for your future, right? Because you'll get a better deal in the long run. As
Right.
you were talking before about the court ordered mediations after 8 months, I'm really thinking after 18 months. That's by the time you get,
Sometimes.
yes, court ordered mediation. And how many motions have there been? And how much discovery has there been? And how many, tens of thousands of dollars have been spent already? But if you can get to a resolution quicker because you had a divorce coach helping you manage your emotions, which helped you manage the number of motions, not just your emotions, but your
Right.
motion practice, then you're going to settle that much sooner. The time is going to condense, which means the money's going to condense, which means you'll get a better solution for your future and start moving forward faster. And it just saves you money all around.
I also feel, and as you said, clinically, I really believe if you're saving money, you will feel less stress. It might not make things emotionally better, but it will reduce the stress. It really will, because to be honest, at a law firm, everything is billed.
Yeah.
Uh, so if I text with someone 10 texts, I'm supposed to bill them point 0.1 for each text. If they're 10 texts, I might bill for 3,
Yeah.
because I feel badly about it. But at the same token, it's my time as well, and I am responsible to a business. So yeah, I do. I'm of counsel with a law firm in Bergen County, and then when I'm contacted on my through my own divorce mediation website, I do that, and then I'm on the court. If I can convince someone to do mediation, if they come to me for do divorce through the law firm, then I do it that way. But it's
Right.
all about saving money.
Yeah.
And it's glad to say that even with a six-figure income, people, it's not enough to handle a mortgage in New Jersey, kids maybe in private school, their activities, travel teams, whatever's going on. It's not enough.
No.
It's not enough, and it's sad. And it's just sad. It's just not enough.
Yeah. No, it's the cost of living is high. And you have more than one child, even if they're not going to private school, the extracurricular activities, the boosters, the sports teams. I mean, it took me having kids in sports in every season, and the uniforms and the jackets and the varsity and all of that on top of everything, plus summer camp. It's not inexpensive to raise children. And
No.
so it doesn't really matter, the six figures. It sounds like a lot, but when you split it, and then when you're both paying into this divorce, it takes a lot.
It cuts that income at
Yeah,
least by a third, I feel.
yeah,
And that's what I want to avoid. And, I can't fix someone's financial life because I do view a lot of their financial documents. I
yeah,
see tax returns. I may see credit card expenditures. I have a list of their debts and their assets.
yeah,
And that's heartbreaking too.
yeah,
It's just, I think you need more than a divorce team. I sometimes feel a financial coach as well.
yeah. No,
Uh,
I
you
work.
know, how do I spend money throughout this divorce process, or how do I not spend money throughout this divorce process?
Yeah. I mean, I work with CDFAs who
Hmm.
really help people pinpoint the best way to divide the assets, but actually to find assets that might be hidden, and to also evaluate what's really going on that tax return. Like, forget forensic accountants. Before you hire an ultra expensive forensic accountant, hire a CDFA to see what that tax return really says. I had a case where there was a very high priced forensic who didn't
Hmm.
discover all of these curious things on the tax return that my CDFA found.
What did the CDFA find?
Found some businesses that were not identified,
Hmm.
found
Right, right.
a private business that was happening and expenses that were not being taken, and a so-called trust that wasn't actually a trust but was a stock account. Like, lots of different things came out,
Hmm.
and it just is surprising what goes on that people just need support for.
Yes, and I look at tax returns page by page, and I see things, and I just ask the client questions.
Yeah,
Um, but most people look at a tax return and just cringe,
yeah,
and line by line, and it is confusing. Um, so to have a specialist look at it for you, um, and sometimes I can't identify what it is, but then I'll ask the client and if we need a CDFA, then absolutely. But yeah, taxes can be confusing. Um, I look at bank records. I'm looking at a defendant's bank records right now. He's not my client, and I keep seeing this periodic income. And I don't. It's just deposits. I don't know what they are. So she may not know what they are. We're going to find out.
we're going to find out.
We're going to find out what it is.
So what I'm hearing is that clients really need an attorney like you and a mediator like you, and someone who could also help them recognize when they need help that's beyond what is the best use of your
Your
talents.
money and time. Yeah, and also their money and their time.
Yeah,
I'll even tell clients, I give them three options when we're meeting for the first time. First, I tell them, you're interviewing me, but I'm also seeing if I want to work with you.
right,
And it goes both ways. And you usually most people have three options. The first is do nothing, but you're talking to me because that's no longer acceptable to you.
right,
The second is, can you do this divorce on your own? I offer that option to everyone, but I know that that's best for someone, short-term marriage, maybe a toddler, they rented, pretty basic, you know. They are capable intellectually of doing it on their own. Emotionally, they may not want to, but that saves a lot of money. And
hmm,
I don't mind a client saying, you know what, I am going to look at that. I am going to try and do it on my own. I don't think, oh, I lost a retainer. No, empowerment and independence and someone who's going to save a lot of money. Uh,
yeah,
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 we
100%.
also offer something called an unbundled service, where they are representing themselves pro se, but we tell them what paperwork they need to fill out, what the usual deadlines are, what language, even though it's generic to each divorce, what language, what are they going to ask for? You know, someone who's not schooled in a divorce complaint might ask for everything and word it like it's a settlement. No, I tell them these are just generic asks. I'm asking
Yeah.
for alimony. I'm asking for child support. I'm asking for possession. That's just very simple. That's usually no more than 2 pages. And so we offer that if that person is willing to not have an attorney name on the paperwork. And I had a client do that, and then it got complicated. So we didn't charge her retainer. We just had her have her pay her monthly invoices.
Right.
So there, I look for those ways. And I tell them, do you want to do it yourself or unburden with me? And we will handle all the paperwork. We will handle the deadlines.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great. So we're about at the end of our time, but this was an incredible conversation. I so appreciate you coming on to the show and sharing with our audience all the things that you offer, all of the sort of I'm trying to think of the word, the pitfalls that people can find themselves falling into. Um, so tell me, what else would you like my audience to know? How can they find you?
Well, for attorney services, I funnel all divorces through Giro Law, and that's GIRO law.com. I don't do divorces on my own because I honestly find it really difficult for one person um, to do all that administrative work. So I have a paralegal, I have a scheduling assistant, and the Linda at Divorce with Less Remorse and Divorce with Less Remorse, private mediation, divorce coaching, but everything else I channel through the law firm, but that's for mediation and divorce coaching. I'm really passionate about how can I save you money because saving money reduces stress. This is all falling in your lap now. Whether even if you're the plaintiff, the one who started the procedure, it's painful for that person too. So how do we get through it?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. You know, it's painful for everybody.
It is.
And this is a life change that no one planned for. It happens. And it happens to a lot of us. So we need to normalize it and we need to make it easier. And from our conversation and from our conversations over time, you are rock star. And I just want to thank you again for being here and sharing what you do with our audience. So with that, this is Lisa Lisser, Dishing on Divorce. You can find me at lzlcoaching.com, and I will see you next week at Dishing on Divorce Next Chapter. See you next week.
Thank you so much.
You.
Bye bye.